Good fala morning, ladies and gentlemen. Viewers, we fala joining me fala through SIBC News Facebook page, and also you fala we tune come lo radio, lo AM frequency 1035, online and lo FM 96.3. Thank you now for you fala save joining me fala today for the SIBC TV Vois Blo program. Now topic Blo me today hem lo environmental protection, conserving our land and sea. Have one fala topic where you may everyone got him big fala worry or concern lo hem. That is why today time by me come, by me talk story around him hana, by me continue for look after him now. Environment Blo me and same time protect him too. Now today you may got him now or the panel of experts, yeah? And with us lo here we have an audience where to come to from a different church groups Blo me here lo honiara. But me stop lo there because me got him the panel members Blo me lo here, where by me ask for each panel member by him introduce him firstly before by me come for talk story Maya. So next to me, by me ask him first panelist Blo me for him save introduce him. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you. Thank you. Name Blo me Agnetha Vavekaramui. I am the Deputy Secretary Technical with the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, Disaster Management, and Meteorology Government.
Thank you, Agnetha. Next panel member.
Thank you. Name me Bill Apusai. Me currently work as a project manager one of the project Living Land Solomon Island.
Thank you, Thomas. Bill. Next one.
Mone, name me Edgar. Today me wear hat osem founder Blo me Masina Greenbelt.
Thank you, Thomas. Dr. Edgar for joining panel this fala morning. Next one.
Good morning, everyone. Name me Faisiota. Me wakaosem Deputy Director for the Inshore Fisheries Division, lo Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources.
Thank you, Faye. And last speaker, Blo me.
Good morning, everyone. Name me Helen Aumai Bosso and me waka osemon Senior Marketing Officer lo Tourism Solomons. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Helen, you may give him clap for panel members Blo me. Before you may go, we like for also talk tag you to ya logata where making program Blo me and possible Ministry Blo Environment, Climate Change, Disaster Management and Meteorology, New Zealand High Commission and number 1 currency. Me Bamina host him show Blo me, name Blo me Elizabeth Sade. Now by me start him discussion Blo me, lo side lo environment and other issues around him now, environment. Vois Blo him bring him come now, environment protection, conserving our land and sea. By me start with them Agneta, lo side lo environment and conservation. What now are the main threats to biodiversity inside Los Solomon Islands and how now ministry him address him now or the threats here. Agneta, thank you, Thomas.
Thank you very much. So Solomon Islands, as you may know, is one of the most rich and also biodiverse country in the world. Yeah? You make lots of plants and animals, both the land and the sea. So, but that one come with them too, a lot of the threats. And inside Los Solomon Islands, I cannot add more you by looking celeber that we are faced with a growing population that demands a lot on the resources that you make. Yeah? Time population go up, you mean the need for food, so over harvesting in some places happen, so that threaten the biodiversity. Overfishing, over dependency law communities around the Solomon Islands and big too much. Yeah? Not only that, unsustainable developments such as those that you see. Me say unsustainable because maybe sometimes them happen, but you may not regulate him, you may not control him, or say him look or say him no happen no any rule lo him. So it continues to destroy the ecosystems. Ecosystems meaning or say mangroves, forest play. Sometimes we may go into taboo places and also. So that itself a threat to the biodiversity. And Solomon Islands, on top of that one, you may host him to unique plants and animals. With them that one, a lot of the plants and animals restricted. So maybe stalo Makira no stalo Western Province. So time we finish him, you may harvest him more developments impact him kata ecosystems bloomy, some corals, rivers bloomy, and waters, and also forest bloomy. Wipe him out, maybe a whole population. Research continue, and also studies continue on Solomon Islands for saving more about the threats that impacting biodiversity. Another one would be on invasive species, bringing in animals and plants. We have no stay loyumi, but can threaten to biodiversity. There's a lot of threats that continue to threaten, but I will leave that to further discussions and also follow-up questions. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Thomas Agneta, for putting some insights into the questions where we just come across for you. You mentioned about unsustainable logging practices, and of course the mining operations also is our concern, especially if you regulate them. Now, do we practice sustainable protocols? That we talk about them now, logging and mining operations.
Thank you. I think one of the later questions we answer first time is what is the ministry doing for addressing a lot of the threats that we facing for biodiversity. The Ministry of Environment is responsible for look after na trifala law blo environment lo country. So by enforcing and also ensuring that you may follow what a law and business law Ministry of Environment. That's one of the ways that you may address in biodiversity. Impacts lo country. Logging and mining have follow environment have supposed to follow environmental rules. Under the Environment Act 1998, if anyone doing development lo country, have to seek permission from the Director of Environment and Conservation Division. So that's how we ensure that they are permitted to do an activity, but it must be within a sustainable manner. Yeah? Awesome. So that's one of the ways that the ministry is looking after and trying to regulate the developments when happen in the country. That goes for mining sector too, but for now, the prospecting is not part of the prescribed development in BSC. Not only lo land, but lo sea too. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas Agneta. By me move to the other question, Bill. You fala doing open wakalo conservation projects, yeah? What na you sa share come for you about him now or the conservation projects, yeah? And also how him benefiting people you and of course you share too some follow challenges where you fala been looking as you fala to Wakalo province. Thank you.
Thank you. As living in Solomon Island, we have been involved a lot of projects, conservation projects in that country and the provinces. Now, one of the projects that we currently work on him now, call him carbon finance forest conservation. And in this project, we are dealing with the forest conservation areas. This is the projects that we try for finding alternatives to benefits for the local communities around those provinces. For to go where to practicing forest conservation, but I can get them the benefits out of when they are conserving the forest. Most of the communities around the country depend entirely on the natural resources. Yeah. So in order for doing conservation, there should be an alternative avenue that we can support them because they depend entirely on those resources. So with these conservation projects that we have been implementing around the communities, we have looking at him also benefiting the communities through managing the resources blocketa, and there are other projects that help for doing too, such as restoring moketa resources in terms of forest areas bloketa. Other benefits also, like the biodiversity also, and also being good clean air, and also the projects can also support them in the economic way, like about bringing jobs to the communities in terms of they can provide monitoring. What people, the communities can be a monitoring of the areas blokata. Okay. One thing in terms of conservation projects in this country, there are challenges too. Yeah. The first and the foremost one that we face now is the funding availability. Yeah? We need funds to do the conservation programs inside the country. With our current program, also thank him too, that the main donor of this project, which is the MFAT, New Zealand government, for funding this for a project inside the country. And also the other challenges too, there are community dispute or land tenants issue inside the country. Yumi garemna the land tenant system Yumi mostly him owned by tribes. Yeah, it's a communal land ownership. So there are sometimes that people must aware to a lot of conservation projects. So we need to work closely one time with the communities where you facing disputes. Like some people like him this, someone like him that. So him now like the basically how me for looking conservation project inside the country.
Thank you, Thomas Bill, for sharing Kamna Law Conservation Project, its benefits, and of course the challenges we have there. Agneta also shared before Bill around him now, or the threats to biodiversity and what now ministry doing and how kata continue for address him. Now, whilst the conservation has been ongoing for some years now, there are groups that come up to for lebet enhance him goma. This one, as population increase, the demand for destruction of environment him also there too. But how you may conserve him is so important. Dr. Edgar, me like for you talk around him now. Striking a balance between now resource harvesting and conservation, and by you also touch a little bit to law goals blow wairaha conservation and what kind of species now you for looking him to be the most at risk and if I like for ensure that it is conserved. Dr. Edgar.
Thanks, moderator. And just to clarify, MMGB, not just Wakalo Wairaha, we follow Wakalo full southern region of Malaita. We have about 26 tribes, communities from Koyo and Arare, where we follow work to do two things, to promote him and protect two things more, nature, so that's the unique species, biodiversity, but also the culture, the people, the way of life. And for three fala people, Okataman where stop come before, the past, those where we are living today, and also Okata Pikinin or descendants by come the future. And that's the main goal of MMGB. So we've been working with communities, little bit awesome live and learn, lo home noma, lo area blomifala for the past 7 years now. In terms of striking a balance, that's a very good question, because as a nation, economy dependent for good law extractive industries, which many surveys say him survey happen unsustainably. Yeah? If you look at logging harvest rates, it has been over the sustainable level for the past more than 20 years come. So that's a challenge. However, country need him selling too. Yeah? So I think in relation to what Bill story, we need to come up with a economic solution in terms of conservation and environmental protection. We cannot just fight for protecting trees and species just for the sake. So that's a challenge. But I do believe that it is possible to find a balance. And have no minimum every single tree block country by me stopping, but if we can have sustainable management, sustainable harvesting. And I think one of the really good things about the protected area process where Mifala go through with the communities and under the Ministry of Environment Plagneta is is communities come up with their own management plans. And in these management plans, communities sit down and say, okay, how many tree na ba mi cut them this fala year? And how many tree na ba mi plant them back? So that we can look at those numbers and make good decisions. And I think that is something that's really missing in staka industrial things such as logging. Yeah, or fighting to the nomad and finish. So I think that's one way where we can find the balance. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Dr. Edgar, you may like for pushing one question for you, but since two other panelists here need for, also come in on board now for story around him areas where the wakalohem. Faye, you side of fisheries. How many marine protected areas now you may currently garem or exist? And was there enough? I have no question for you, Faye. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Very interesting. And I think Bami answer awesome. When we talk about marine protected areas, him come under Vois Blo Okatalo Ministry of Environment too. Mi fala lo Ministry of Fisheries, mi fala support okata in terms of okata communities where like for establish yourself for marine protected area. And for now one fala marine protected area mi garem hemna the Anavons hemna hem registered under the Protected Areas Act where Agnetha hem mentioned him today. With regards to Vois Blo mi fala lo ministry within the Inshore Fisheries Division mi fagare one fala section inside lo division blo mi fala him called the Community Based Resource Management Section or CBRM for short. And team lo CBRM section okata save go support team communities with technical providing technical support, awareness, not much on protection or MPA by SIBC, but more on resource management. So we have a number of communities where imigarem, where otagarem ota simple community fisheries management plans. Where not only mi fala lo Ministry of Fisheries na mi fala wakawetem, but mi fagarem okata other supporting NGOs, international NGOs, and also ota community-based organizations, where ota based lota provinces bloyumi. And with the work on CBRM, hem more on communities okata come together for decide lo how na ot like for doing management lo small reef areas blota in front lo communities. So it's not a new thing. Hem been practiced before. You save call them taboo, but I guess with the taboo you bara close him area for certain events lo community, or for example lo Isabel ba or for celebration lo day church. So we can have those taboos and we can have co-management too, where communities okata supported by external NGO partners or even the government or other practitioners, where to come for supporting communities for developing the simple management rules and also the small penalties where communities themselves through governance blocketa inside the community or kata save help for managing na ota resources blocketa. After all, imi must save that imi people of place, or some other speakers mentioned him, imi need for imi depend by me selo o kata resources blow imi for daily livelihood and for other socio-economic needs. So with our work on CBRM, hem more on supporting other communities blow imi for o kata save continue for benefit from their resources around them. Also, Edgar mentioned him too, for not only for today but for future generation too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas Faye, for adgomo lo story where three fala panelists blow you me. Okata share lo hem around him now. Conservation, wahem bara important or crucial to master me talk about him livelihood blo people blo yumi. Of course, a little bit selling too, yeah, for give him support. We will come to tourism Helen by him talk story a little bit around how now tourism he waka with them or the conservation groups for protect him now or the natural sites blo yumi. But we'll get to Helen very soon, and later lo show blo yumi by yumi also garam to trefa question from audience where ogata with him yumi lo here. But yumi go for a break.
Solomon Islands is a party to the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework adopted during COP15, which plans to protect our planet's plants, animals, and ecosystem so that by 2050 people and nature can live together in harmony. Solomon Islands, through the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, Disaster Management and MET, is with the global call to protect nature. We are updating our National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan as a roadmap to safeguarding our forests, oceans and wildlife for generations to come. But we can't do it alone. Protecting our environment is everyone's responsibility: government, communities and you.
Forests are vital to Solomon Islands' future. They protect water sources, support diversity, and underpin community livelihoods. Over the past 5 years, New Zealand has partnered with Live and Learn, Nakau, Natural Resources Development Foundation, and now the Nature Conservancy to support small-scale, indigenous-led forest carbon projects that generate income for landowners while conserving nature. This work complements New Zealand's support for Solomon Islands to develop a national carbon trading policy, creating a fair, transparent framework for communities to benefit from carbon markets under the Paris Agreement. Together, we are helping build environmental and economic resilience grounded in partnership and practical action.
Welcome back, Lo Voice Blo You. Thank you, Lo Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, Disaster Management and Meteorology, New Zealand High Commission and Number One Currency for making program hemi possible. Now by me move Helen Lo Tourism. How na tourism he waka with them conservation groups for protecting na other natural sites and of course other tabu sites where him also important for people Blo Yumi. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. First of all, me like to make mention of the importance that the environment can play for tourism industry. I would say that the tourism industry our environment can provide the basis or an avenue where tourism exists or why tourism can be able to thrive or grow inside the country, believe me. In terms of tourism, I would focus firstly on waka where ministry am doing or the counterparts of my fellow ministry, where oketa also got in partnerships too with them organizations where supporting na conservation efforts below some of our conservation sites. For this instance, Bami mentioned him na Anavonia, as colleague Bami Fayhem also mentioned him that him na one for lot of registered MPA sites. And MCT him support through law funding as well as law tour guide training. Now this one is very important law side law tourism where visitors or come for visit him na oketa MPA sites, for example, like Anavon. And MCT him provide him that fala tour guide training in order for oketa save talk more about him what na ota sites him garam in store for visitors blame. Okay, come side lo tourism Solomons where if I deal with them marketing, if I help him to ota conservation sites like Anavon, Tetepare, for promoting na oketa sites here. You understand him that logging him not really sustainable, but tourism him garam sustainable practices. So through tourism, by me still I bring him selling inside lo country blame through other visitors blame where go and visit na loketa sites here. In return, oketa selling where spending by help more for
conservative na every other sites blame low country. So him now is the main focus or the main thing that tourism and wakal him. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas Helen, for talk around him now, how tourism and waka with the water conservation groups for protecting now natural sites. Now most, or if not all of the panelists, Blo Yumi, talk around him now, protection, conservation, land and sea. Now whilst you may also hear him that there are challenges there, how climate change affecting our land and marine ecosystem is also before us now too. So by me bring him come that next question around climate change for panel survey talk story around him. So Agneta, by me start back with them you. So how now climate change affecting land and marine ecosystem? Other panel members, if I'll survey also add come too. From Agneta as hemi story for Yumi, since him from Ministry Blo Yumi Law Environment, so I'm good for him start with him for leading discussion law the area around climate change. Thank you, Agneta.
Thank you, moderator. Okay, climate change and one fella issue, global issue where osem Bayu Herem, Solomon Islands hem consent to Muslim. We are living on the front lines, on the front lines of climate change. You me small, you me so unique, you me so fragile, although you me biodiverse, but you me an island country, and a lot of the impacts that climate change, as climate change, you me got sea level rise, you me got weather patterns change, see him come up and wipe him away, coastlines, blame me. That also impacts on the ecosystems that depends on where, like you may change him to landscape and ecosystem inside the sea and also the land. But on top of that, the climate change has an impact directly on communities. Most of the communities, 95%, more than 80%, you may stay within 1 kilometer low coast, and a lot, I think some of us in here are also from communities where I'm from an island. So not only him impacting mangroves and also like sea for mangroves, but also when it rains, heavy rain, heavy cyclones, more intense, spoil them, you may causing flooding, a lot of impacts where you may look in changes this time to do with climate. But the dangerous and I think serious something where Ministry of Environment try for like promoting is on top of the over harvesting that you may doing for sustainable human community needs and also development they may make. I mean, in place how much more time impacts climate change have come. So it the word is on adding more pressure resources and also the impacts on biodiversity that you make. And so communities, for example, a community that's live side logging development, and also if rain and give flood more garden goma, you may but just no good. So that's the issue that we are dealing with. There's a lot of issues around climate change. It's a big issue, but I think from our perspective, these are issues that are very important, and that's why we are so concerned. And we must always talk to communities for understanding that on top of over harvesting you may do him, and also the threats on the biodiversity, you may have to deal with them changing climate too, which is not natural, but caused by not by you me, but people outside and also big developed countries. So we continue to increase emissions color atmosphere blame, yeah? Not this time, but in the past. So these are issues that we are dealing with, and the Ministry of Environment under the Climate Change and Climate Change Division is the agency that looks after. So if any issues to do with the impacts, This is something that Mifala, through the division, is trying to make sure that communities understand some of the impacts we have not caused by over-harvesting and also but the changing climate. I think that one of me leaving for other panelists to add.
Any other panel members, Bill?
Thank you, moderator. Okay, with regard to climate change and the conservation project, as Agneta has rightly stated, climate change is a global issue, yeah? One of the impact, and it's a cross-cutting issue too. Look at the development blame today. As a conservation project that Mifala implementing, like you can see the impact of climate change and mostly affecting Mokota conservation areas too, yeah? You can see in the communities that most of the impact you may not affect him. Even you may not cause him, but the impact affecting me. So one of the things that our project is doing is like Mifala work close one time communities that protect him forest area. Okay, the one of the thing that trees you may do him is absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So this is the way that project Mifala am doing for fight against climate change, for reducing amount of carbon dioxide gas in the atmosphere through conserving forest area. So when you conserve your forest, there is a benefits that you can receive under the scheme called the carbon credit scheme that we are trying to develop within the country. So that's one of the things that Mifala doing within our project inside a lot of communities, believe me.
Thank you, Thomas. Bill. Fiona? Faye, sorry. Faye? Thank you.
Okay, I think just to add on to what to fala nara panelists to fala mentioning today, with regards to Waka Blo Mifala with the community-based resource management, some fala experiences where communities facing inside low management areas bloketana is coral bleaching and very low tides where he make them corals exposed long hours lo hot sun and the heat now hembara too must be winimna before. I guess the impact here lo ota managed areas bloketana o sem coral he wan fala habitat ya o by mi se home ya for ota animal blame lo see. So I guess coral bleaching him make him too for okata fish okata go find him ota healthier reefs ya ota reefs where ota live one for okata save stop inside. And for us in the ministry through our research team okata to support or for try for supporting communities in addressing the coral bleaching okata save supporting communities for doing replanting of coral hem now something team lo mi follow research section okata doing as well as we have some community champions too, yeah. Same Agneta mentioned him, climate change affecting mangroves. We have some community champions where okata got technical expertise for replanting mangrove too, yeah. So we have those local practitioners or ota champions where okata to support him, the ministry and okata NGO partners blame inside the country for try for addressing now the impacts below climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Faye, and for the next question, Bluyumi around him now traditional practices and knowledge or survey Blo people Bluyumi. As panelist, if I look him, this one can still be employed or used. Now, time we talk about him conservation. Dr. Edgar, let me start with him. You.
Thank you. Yes, very much so. And sometimes I like using the word conservation because it does come from a very Western scientific place, yeah. So one follow word, I think by if you using word lo musna bagud, but another word when we feel like for using is guardianship. You mean people lo place look after what something lo place. So that's another one. And you can also look at the word stewardship, which you must find in the Bible too. But it all sort of comes back to this management, and looking after. And I think Yumi, where Yumi Barava majority indigenous country and staka land and forest and sea still stop under lo indigenous guardianship, or kata indigenous people and communities. And when I use the word indigenous, I mean people of place, people of place. Yumi got a big role to us for play. And some people say, oh, Yumi must go back where Kabelatona, but maybe not. It's how do we use the wisdom and the values that hem stop inside lo kata people blumi, lo culture blumi, and apply them na lo context but today. So I think have no more short answer blumi. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Dr. Edgar. Any other panel members like for making additional comment? Agneta?
I think from the ministry's perspective, I think traditional knowledge and also community waka and waka with them people blow Yumi lo place important to us. You may not take many Western, concepts are there. You go and go schooling. There's a global concepts on how you may keep in place, keep in forest, keep in sea. Yeah, you may using words marine protected areas and locally managed marine areas. These are something we have stay with them with the community people blame lo place. You can see it in our traditional practices where people lo place or kata using custom for stopping one particular harvest for one season, or for some practices lo religions blame in churches or kata say okay mama hem in the Anglican space mama hem prayer for closing reef or sem. Imi small, imi looking lo time is small, mi looking what a auntie and uncle lo tying him rope lo tree. Stop and bitol nate. That for understanding global concept, the conservation, this is how we manage our resources. And communities have been living with place blockata for long time. Although yes, there are challenges, that's why I think we are building on the traditional knowledge and the Save Blo place, knowledge and innovation block communities where you stay. You start mix to us communities, but there are communities, knowledge, the way we interact with them environmentally important to us. I'm sure out lo language. A lot of the language lo fish are different for a different number of different types of fish. So that shows itself that we know about the environment, of the old people. But this is at risk of being at a loss to new generation, new lifestyle. I think we like going to new ways of doing things. But I think our emphasis, the Ministry of Environment, that is the foundation of what we call management. How do we using traditional knowledge, using traditional practice, using innovation of communities to come up with how do we develop management plans that work for the communities. That's why a lot of our programs, even the Protected Areas program, emphasize it hugely low, start with the people, talk to the people, they know how, and then you come take someone we have got a little bit savvy on top of that scientific knowledge, the modern ways of doing things. Maybe Karam come from other Pacific islands, but we are not with that. We should be working with the people. So that's why working with non-government organizations and local communities and the local champions is a priority for us in the ministry. You hear Faye mentioned in community-based risk management, which is one of our flagships, where MIFA realizing, young practitioners realizing that we cannot go anywhere without starting with them where you start from. And a lot of the communities, different ways of doing things, from Temo to Kasem no Chözol, different. So the approaches should be not standard too. It should be adopted and tailored for different communities. And that makes our work very, very exciting, because I think you may learn a lot from the communities than from experts. Experts with scientific knowledge can improve on traditional knowledge. I think that's what we're saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Agneta. Helen Bambi giving me opportunity, but I need to have this one before you may go for a break. Blow you me. Whilst we have heard of the work, planning worker, and the conservation projects where different groups ought to go ahead for doing, and of course the collaboration law there, the state of protected areas now, if anyone law panel survey, tell them come for our audience and of course for listeners and viewers, blow you me. Wasway, can we still use the resources now in the next 5 to 10 years? So state of protected areas, blow you me, or do we still need more worker around him now, protect him or the sites for make sure that whatever resources blow me there, both land and sea, and still intact for the next generation? Agneta, let me start with you.
Thank you, moderator. I think let me go first, but because of the Ministry of Environment has a mandate under the Protected Areas Act 2010. That's why me respond. But as Dr. Edgar Hemtalem today, protection is a kind of a Western. Also, you protect it, you no use him na, yeah? You sat them, you no let them. But a lot of the work that's in protected areas inside Los Solomon Islands or conservation worker have to do with management. Yeah. People, communities blame me, shut them off a reef, and they think about how do they put rules so that they continue to manage maybe, or even fishing in size or using size limits. But the Protected Areas Act is a tool that the government has introduced in 2010 for establishing protected areas, both land and sea. So for that technical question, when we say protected areas, you may for terrestrial or land, you may protect them less than 3%. Scientifically and also based on survey block at experts, let's say we need 15% of the terrestrial area to be protected to ensure that biodiversity have balance with them, the development that you may putum lahem. So in order for him recover, for him maintain, for serving you and I and communities, you may need 15% of terrestrial area coverage. And him must know just one place, and him know about size, but him on various biodiversity levels. That's low technical. You need an ecosystem, so percentage of mangroves was inside. Not all mangroves, but you must need him seagrass, you must need him coral reef, and deep sea. Awesome. So that every biodiversity will be conserved. The marine, we said to target it would be need 15% is low marine and 10% low land. Sorry, I actually mix them up too far. But 15% low marine. You may get 1.8 million square kilometers, yeah, of ocean to conserve or to maintain the biodiversity that we need. The reports say you may need him 15% and versus low land and 10%. We're nowhere near that number. Also, for record now, we are protecting at least less than 1%. So our goal is to ensure that we make ASEM by working with communities, working with provinces, and also with sectors. Yeah, big space to us. At least we keep him 15% of it, and the land at least we protect him under legal protection or some kind of management, effective management. 10% of the land resources. That's where our National Biodiversity Strategy Action Plan, with consultation with experts, that's where advice him. So for answer question, you mean no kosapit? Kasi side law environment na. We haven't balanced off on the need for protection as versus development. Not enough for maybe this time, but go all future, I think by no man him no able for maintaining na biodiversity benefits for you me. I think by Edgar and
thank you Thomas. Agneta, because by me go for the break, when we by me come back, then other panel members give him ting blow you falato.
Forests are vital to Solomon Islands' future. They protect water sources, support diversity, and underpin community livelihoods. Over the past 5 years, New Zealand has partnered with Live and Learn, Nakau, Natural Resources Development Foundation, and now the Nature Conservancy to support small-scale indigenous-led forest carbon projects that generate income for landowners while conserving nature. This work complements New Zealand's support for Solomon Islands to develop a national carbon trading policy, creating a fair, transparent framework for communities to benefit from carbon markets under the Paris Agreement. Together, we are helping build environmental and economic resilience grounded in partnership and practical action.
Solomon Islands is a party to the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework adopted during COP15, which plans to protect our planet's plants, animals, and ecosystem so that by 2050 people and nature can live together in harmony. Solomon Islands, through the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, Disaster Management and MET, is with the global call to protect nature. We are updating our National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan as a roadmap to safeguarding our forests, oceans and wildlife for generations to come. But we can't do it alone. Protecting our environment is everyone's responsibility, government, communities and you.
Welcome back, and this one here me Vois Blo here at SIBC. Thank you once again to Ota we are making possible the show Blo Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, Disaster Management and Meteorology, New Zealand High Commission and #1 currency. And now Bayumi open up for audience Bayumi for Sabe ask him question. Me say for the panelist for. Okay, so before me open him up, I'm coming back to the panel. Lo area around protected area where Agneta Hemi mentioned or talk little bit lo hem where ministry Hemi go ahead for work strong around him. So Bill, you shall go ahead and make him comment below you that one.
Thank you, moderator, for that. In terms of protected area inside the country, I think because like most of the conservation activities or projects occurs low of the traditional lands, we have been like you miss have that the landowners, there are places that the project conservation activities or to do them in the locally way and traditional way finish inside locally, but due to this, like you meet this time in the government and the national government, there should be a legal mechanism that cement those conservation projects inside the country. So in our program, like Protected Area Act is one of the mechanisms that we follow using to us. In order for your forest area, you must be protected under this national law in order for you go into this carbon credits work within low country. I think if I'm putting comment or something. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas Bill. For audience, suppose you got a question, but you ready? But me like for Helen and Edgar, you'd first make a little bit contribution law, area law, protected areas before by me put on for audience play me ask question. So Helen, can you go first, please? Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. I think me just like a comment in terms of how important or the protected areas are for tourism. So as me recall back to side traditional knowledge, those are very important for in terms of tourism. As other visitors will come to country blimi or come for experiencing na other authentic and real experiences. So I'm good to mas for you know. As other panelists mentioning, you mean no copycat to us from outside. We treasure what we have, acknowledging what na big man bless him, you me with him, and you me look after them well, as Edgar mentioned in terms of the stewardship. And so me just like for add on or semnoma that our marine protected areas or our environmental protected areas are very important in terms of growth for our destination. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas, Helen. Okay, and Edgar, Dr. Sam, all right now. So most probably for the discussion or story blow you me for the show, you may talk around in planned areas and information we have be useful to us. How you must continue for protecting environment, conserving land and sea, where him now also the discussion or you may talk around him. Lo this fella show for today. So from audience, Baba you may now take him first question lo you me lo this fella time. So by you savitalem name blow you, what kind church group you represent him, and then ask him question blow you come for panel. You follow where follow come the live broadcast on radio and also on our Facebook page lo here lo SIBC tag you to masna for time blow you lo there.
Okay, thank you. Name me Annika. I'm representing St. Nicholas Anglican College. First of all, before me ask him question, me like acknowledge him organization for organizing this wonderful event where youths and students come voice what not opinion but in terms of conservation of the environment. So first question, nama. Most ministry depends mostly on government funds and aids to carry out such work as conservation of the environment. How can we help boost our economy by using natural resources in a sustainable way and to consider the natural development of Solomon Island? Thank you.
Dr. Edgar?
I think let's just take for example trees, yeah, and a good example na by looking lo Bangara where okata no harvest them too much wild trees, it's actually planted trees, yeah. So if there's a way that over time oka tree me plant them, you may come back, you may harvest them, that can provide economies, jobs, all those things. So that's one example of country this time where we found a balance between harvesting something sustainable because something you may plant them too. So and then I think that's a principle ota communities blame is a practice in number 2. Thanks. Good question.
Thank you. Any other panel members like for Adon Goma, Agneta?
Yeah, I think coming back to and also picking up on the two panelists, like for example, Live and Learn, we are now moving into carbon trade as a scheme for supporting management below areas because as an alternate economic incentive for communities, blame me. And we're starting to see under the voluntary mechanism, people and also tribal groups are keeping their forest, not just keeping it, but ensuring that they have employment through rangers and also receiving tourism, researchers, getting income from research from Ota Forest Broketa, and also partnering up with important sector WME is the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, where there's a huge potential for conservation, resource management, and partner with them because they complement each other. Communities putting their effort to protect the land and the sea, and also connecting with the Ministry of Tourism for bringing in and market in place. Awesome. So those can be another way to that we are actually in currently doing partnership with them, organizations who are interested in those activities to answer the question coming from the audience.
Any other panel members? Faye?
Thank you for your question. I think with regards to Mifala Law Ministry of Fisheries, Mifala actually some fala people are doing exports, export lo ota coral, for example, and also okata small life reef fish for golot aquariums, overseas. So you must ensure for engaging sustainable harvesting, in this kind of other resources, So you may get rich resource, as I mentioned today. However, you may need for managing too, because you may get a lot of interest from outside, from this let me say ota beautiful and very healthy species where you garem. So boosting our economy, I would say, but a growing economy through our exports from these reef animals, him to basa as opportunity for economy, and that is an example this time too. Thank you.
Thank you, Faye. Bayemi, go for the second question. So say your name, what now school or church group you represent him, and ask your question. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Afternoon. My name Blomi, Alen Rava. Miss School Bishop Noman Pama, Presidim Akom School. So our lunch and see our identify, our food, our culture, and our future. But today we be facing stark pressure. For example, logging, mining, climate change, waste, overfishing, coral loss, and more. So question Blominosem, what can we do to protect our resources for the next generation? Thank you.
Faye.
Okay, thank you for your question. I think bami toko sem ya. Wetem waka blomi follow community-based resource management. And as other panelists also story, it comes back for Umi people of place ya. Umi lo Solomon Island, umi special to mas ya. Umi na otalan ona, umi na ona marif lo front lo community blue umi ya. You mi fa government or NGO na hem onam o keta things ya. So I think bami answer kamo sem noma for question blue hem come back lo umi people of place ya. Not only ota chief noma, ota church elder, but everyone inside na ya community. Whether you are a resource owner, you want for land owner, or you want for a user noma, him come back lo yumi for yumi everyone na waka together for yumi keep him na ota resources ya. Because yumi lo solo, yumi say yumi na resource owner ya. I think him na short way ba misa answer. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to that, I'm true. And sometimes if we look at these global problems like climate change, it can be quite disheartening too. Yeah. I think it's better if you break them, come down, and you look lo when a land blo tribe blo yumi or when a area lo sea lo front lo village. When you break it down into those smaller components, okay, how can we do our best to manage these things where God given for you look after them, and then that's the best way. And there's different organizations or government or even okata wisdom block okata elders bring to have a help him for keep him good okata something for future generations.
Thank you, Dr. Edgar. Bill?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. It's come back to us, the resource owners. I mean, there are alternatives development like sustainable developments out there, and then the only thing is like the resource owners or the communities need for understanding too, in terms of development, like sustainable development, how you look after resources for you. I mean, like in terms of the conservation practices, there's one of the things there that can help him our communities in the future for benefit out of lot of resources that got him. In terms of how you decide the decision that you may do him know for key things that you may need for get him on board for look after the resources that you may got him. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Agneta?
Okay, thank you. I think Bami talk lo perspective blow government for and also the Ministry of Environment responding to a student. I think Bami put him encouragement. As a student, please take an interest in your community's business law, environment protection and conservation activity. In your community, your family, and your province. Take a passionate look lo what na province you doing, community, even your ward. You can approach your members of parliament to also ask them what are programs where you can be included. What is your program to school? If you don't have an environmental program to school, please advocate for it, because it will instill skills, understanding. You will not only the school inside the classroom, but take part in reaching out to community side lo you. Imi no go pass no ma then look no ma lo rubbish lay down. Think about why na rubbish lo there. Is there a regulation in your province or in your school on what na how na manage him that one and why na go him stay there. Take a concern on environmental issues. I think that one for me fellow. That's why we are so interested and also promote environmental education. A lot of the work that we do in communities involve youth and also the children and also the schools. So if you know government environment program lo school blo you please tell them teacher blo you start one not in your school, maybe reach out in your community. Me happy that Selwyn lo here and also where you stay lo rural community you have a good access to the forest, to the community, and see what now the practices of that doing. Also pick a passion on forestry and on coral, looking after coral reefs. Read about it. So for the Ministry of Environment, we hope that a lot of the environmental things where you do have not only lo books for you, but talking to your elders and also understanding how na communities and tribes know your story. Custom me, I think sometimes you less for here, but a lot of good custom on how we protect the environment have stop low the elders blame. And we run the risk of losing it because you mean la name too much lo school. There's not a space for it in the school. Take a project and an initiative to have a discussion about that with your peers as well. I think that enough from a also me answer come back. We have so much faith in the new generation because we also are working with young, brilliant people to inside the space. Generation have changed a lot of emerging issues where you fall not might school him then me fall the old one. Ota former colleagues. So when you have a passion in this, I hope that you will continue in your future to work in this space. Yeah, a lot of exciting things for studying and also learning with them communities. Blame.
Agneta, Deputy Secretary Technical of Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, Disaster Management and Meteorology. Thank you. Bill Apusai, Project Manager, Blo Carbon Finance, Forest Conservation, Live and Learn Solomon Islands. Dr. Edgar Pollard, Director, Center for Islands Future and representing Wairaha Conservation. Faye Siota, Deputy Director, Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources. And Mrs. Helen Aumai, Senior Marketing Blo Tourism, Officer Blo Solomon, or Tourism Solomons. Thank you for the information where you will come and give him for our audience. Lo here, me ask that you may give him a hand for panelists and for you, Mr. Levato. And to our audience and our listeners and viewers, thank you once again for joining Voice Blo. You, me, Elizabeth Sade.